Anything anyone wants to say? Yes.
You're saying the end of the surah, then what's in?
Give the tea.
And what's in what Sheikh Maulana is saying about that there's something in man that he declares lordship and he doesn't want to be a servant. I'm speaking from my own experience that I think maybe with age it becomes and along with your advice and training, it's become much more clear how tariqat is building everything to take you away from what makes you declare lordship. And I wanted to ask how Jamaat, especially because only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alone, how Jamaat is one way of breaking that, and how being alone feeds that more to make you feel like Lord.
What's the question?
What is that thing inside Jamaat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to be
Jamaat is not just Jamaat. Jamaat is following leadership. That is Jamaat. Ummat is not just 2 billion people, 10 billion people. It's not an Ummat. An Ummat means nothing without, first, a prophet. It has to have a prophet. And Ummat is only an Ummat of the Prophet. In fact, those who reject him, maybe not, they're from his Ummat. Yes? And the scholars are stricter about this. To say those who reject him, they're not from his Ummat. Yes or no? The sheikhs, they're a little bit more inclusive. So Jamaat is nothing without leadership. Leadership is not a bunch of committee members. There's not leadership too, who don't know what they're doing. Leadership are for leaders that is given leadership to them. And especially if that Jamaat is not an economic Jamaat, is not a cultural Jamaat, it's not a tribal Jamaat, but it's a spiritual, religious Jamaat. Then everything else comes with that too, but then that leadership has to be given. It is something, as Shaykh Effendi says, it is giving. You're born with it. It's not something that you can just read here and there, look at some things, and then suddenly you have it. So the Jamaat cannot work without leadership. The Jamaat cannot work without accepting and obeying that leadership. No Jamaat, no company, no organization can exist properly without that kind of understanding, without that kind of social contract. You cannot. Not even outside, if you are belonging to a company of, let's say, fixing the road. Because today's people are so proud. If we say street sweepers, they say, I'm better than a street sweeper. But let's say municipality, something. That is not going to work if you're always disobedient. If you are, how you say? What? No, don't use those words. People are not going to understand. That's why I'm moving my words to something else. You challenge those ones in authority. Insubordination. Isn't that the word they use, insubordination? Isn't that grounds also for hiring in any organization? Because insubordinate, subordinate. Subordinate means submission. Correct or no? People are saying, we should not be, this is wrong, this is a cult, So, definitely this is not a cult. People do as they like. What kind of cult this is? It's a failure of a cult. But there has to be leadership. And if there's always insubordination, then cannot be Jamaat, cannot be union, cannot be company, cannot be country, cannot be anything. A group of people cannot even be family if there's always insubordination. Impossible. There's no group that does not have any law. None. Every group has to have a law. Correct or no? And if you break the laws, either they're going to punish you, or you are going to say, I'm bringing myself out from this group, this organization, I'm going to go to another one to escape from that law because I don't like it, I reject it. Well, guess what? You go to another place, there's another law there, you never finish Sharia. You never finish that. So, what makes a man think and still want to be a lord when he's given the illusion that you can live this life, you can survive, that you're independent from anyone, that there is it is, as Muslims, it is an illusion. Because that's not what the Prophet ﷺ or the Sahaba Kiram they taught. That's not what 1,400 years of Islamic civilization, from any organization, from dervishes to sheikhs to ministries to scholars, nothing. There must always be a knower above every knower. And if you know that knower is above you, what do? Allah is saying you be insubordinate to it? No, you submit. Yes or no? Right. So these days especially, it is easier to run with the idea that you can be free. You can be alone. This is an illusion. And it's an illusion, especially in this country, not in too many countries around the world. Because the system of this country allows you to have that illusion. But even in this country, it's still an illusion, isn't it? You're still subordinate to the laws of the town, the city, the movie theater. You're still subordinate to that. You can say, I can do anything that I want, especially now. With the winds of change blowing and it's become more conservative, you cannot. But it gives you the illusion and the delusion that you are alone, because that is shaitanic. Allah is giving him the permission to do as he likes until Judgment Day. He knows he's not free. But he feeds that illusion to the ego, and the ego was given this wrong understanding, has this wrong understanding from the beginning. In this pure egotistical idea that he is alone and that he is Lord. Everything else other than the ego does not believe this, does not understand this. Doesn't. So Muslims now have become more egoistical, because no Muslim group, organization, not the Ummah especially, can be free. Because everyone has to be subordinate to someone, to another knower, to someone who is higher, ultimately to the one who is the Khalifa, representing the Prophet ﷺ, who is subordinate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the chain. Yes? But the illusion given to us now, you don't have to. You can be free. Run with that illusion. As Allah says to Shaitan, we only give you an appointed time. And for us, the appointed time really is not until Judgment Day. For us, the appointed time is until death. It's not Judgment Day. You know what? It's not even until death. Next time you're sick, and don't think, oh, sick, terminal illness. No, next time you have a splitting headache that you can't get rid of. For 3 days, you will say, La ilaha illa anta subhana in kuntu minaz zalimin. You will. And that is still a mercy to you. Yes? So now you see that illusion is fed when Allah then removes obstructions and difficulties in your life and gives you just ease for you to feed on, because Shaitan is not being punished now, is he? He's allowed to do whatever he wants. But is Shaitan under the illusion that he's not going to be punished? No, he knows what is. But our ego is constantly in illusion and delusion. Constantly. Worse than Shaitan. Worse. So the whole aim is now to move away from our nafs, from the attitude of our nafs, from the understanding, from the way the nafs thinks. The nafs can clothe itself in religious clothes, spiritual clothes. The outside can look so good, but the nafs is always deep inside in your heart. That's why the Naqshbandi sheikhs, they're not really interested in the outside so much. They say, outside, of course, you follow sunnah, it'll be very good, then you get a lot of benefit from it. But the focus is now in your heart, without letting go of the outside. Naqshbandi Sheikhs, especially Osman Naqshbandi, Shaykh Abdul Karim Effendi Hazrat Ali, is not saying, because we're concentrating on the nafs, dress as you like. No. Or behave as you like. No. He's saying now, because you're addressing the heart, whatever the heart is inside, it must show outside. And if our outside is good, you are going to make the inside better than the outside. So there is always a conflict. There is always a struggle. There is always a struggle. And that is something that is never ending until we die. Until we die, the end of our world or the end of all these worlds. The struggle never ends. As the Prophet ﷺ says, now when they reconquered Mecca, it says now there is no hijrah. Hijrah is finished. But what is not finished until Judgment Day is the struggle. You see? What do we struggle? May Allah forgive us. So following leadership, that is a very important part of our faith. If you cannot follow leadership, then your faith is going to hurt. Following the Prophet ﷺ is following leadership. He is not a universal principle, like so many Sufi groups trying to say. The first intellect, No, he is first, because we're living in this world, he is that one who came into this world. Beyond that, never we're going to comprehend his secret. We know. But our responsibility is not his secret. Our responsibility is, he comes here, flesh and blood, leading as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, coming from men, we have to obey. And his descendants and his successors, same way. Their secret is none of our business. But when they reduce him only to these things, secrets, very convenient. Then we don't have to follow the leader, the man. We don't have to follow. Then we can just interpret his secret as we like. As that foolish one saying, well, in the early history, the narrative was there has to be, Islam has to rule. After that, people changed their minds. Early narrative, Islam is 1400, 1300 years that continues. As the Prophet says, it must still continue. We cannot get these wrong ideas. It will poison us. Inshallah. May Allah protect us. May Allah raise the station of Sahib al-Saif. Al-Fatiha. Shaitan is being alone in that very